With any luck, I can get this in before the sun actually comes down into here, and then I'll have to stop and wait for the sun to go down and shoot a new video. Anyway, quick update. It's been a little while now. I think I was doing all of that around Memorial Day. As far as building the bench, this is just a quick bench update. And so it's been a while. It was around the Memorial Day. It was a several day build just because of the way I had to build it. But loving it. I've used it quite a bit now. As far as this workstation, it's that semi-compact. It's 3 wide like standard benches are and the ones that Ron Paulk builds. But I made it 7 long. Probably if I did it again, I would just shorten it to 6. I really wanted the 4x8. Can't do the 4x8 because of space limitations and all of that. So I thought, well, you know, compromise and 3x6 or 3x7 instead of 3x6, just for the added work surface. I don't know if I'm really going to need that extra foot, if it's going to matter in the end, but I've got it. The bench is a little bit heavy, like I had said in a previous video. I think around 100 pounds or so, based on what I believe the materials are into it. Just using standard AC plywood on all of it, 3/4 top, 1/2 inch bottom. In the spreaders, the internal spreaders on the sides are 1/2 inch, but the end spreaders I made out of 3/4 because that was fall off I had, and I figured structure and rigidity and everything else. It does have the pipe system, so I can clamp my table saw to it. I'm more or less a one-man operation most often, and so having this basically as my second person, as my outfeed instead of sawhorses and door blanks and all of that, is really integral to me, and so I'm super ecstatic about this particular setup. It works well. So what am I talking about today? Well, really quickly, to make a long story short too late, right, that today what I had a chance to do, because my wife is out of town, and so I snuck down here after I was done working inside on our house. I snuck down here and done it. So if she doesn't see the video, then we're good, you and I. If she sees the video, I'll be in the doghouse because I'm supposed to be working inside. But it was getting late, and I cut out and decided to do something for just me, not me in my house. So I should be working on my house. So this is what I did. Simply, I hadn't had to use the miter slots. But there came a time when I wanted to run something through, had the miter slots, and they weren't routed out yet. And so today I was kind of thinking, well, what can I do? You know, I've got a little bit of time. I really am done in there, but can I come out here and putz around a little bit? I thought, oh yeah, those miter slots. And so I went ahead and right there, made a quick template. 1.25 inch hole up at the top, around 18 inches or so, which is the length of the miter slots on the saw. So they're about 18 inches or so. It's an 18-inch deck, I think, 18 or 19. So I went ahead and cut that there, and then I went through the table saw to take out the slot, and then I used my bushing, my pattern guide, on my router, and then just a basically it's a 2-flute bit. I was going to grab an upcut spiral, but I had the 2-flute bit right there, so and I don't use it as often, so why not dull this one up after for a little bit instead of playing with the other one. So I set that all up, got it here, got it all marked out, got the depth ready to go, removed the table saw so I had free clearance, set the jig down, or the template down, clamped it to the surface. Unfortunately, I don't have any clamps that go through the dog holes yet. It takes a real thin clamp with a really thin nose, and I just don't have any of those. I think I have a few on the way through Amazon. Picture was a little grainy. So I'm hoping that they show up. I was hoping they would be here by now, but so I just made do. Fortunately, it was at the very end, and so I could clamp, and it was enough that I didn't have to put any holes, drilling any holes or anything on the surface, which I want to keep the surface as pristine as possible for as long as possible. So anyway, got the routers, or the miter slots all ripped out. Basically traced it, and then just hogged all the stuff out, just back and forth and around with the bit. Cleaned it out. Not too long ago, ended up with a cordless DeWalt, because all my stuff is DeWalt, just because early on I picked DeWalt. Love all the cordless stuff, used a lot of it, Makita, Milwaukee. Used some Ryobi even, and didn't have a problem with Ryobi. I know it's less expensive, but just for what little I used it, someone loaned me some tools, I think, wherever I was, and yeah, I didn't have any problem with them. But consistently, because my battery system is all set up for DeWalt, I'm using DeWalt pretty much exclusively for all my battery stuff. So with the 20 volt, and unfortunately now I have a couple of 60 volt tools, and the 60s can be used on the 20s, but the 20s can't up, and I get that. So it's kind of a two battery system, but at least the chargers all work, you know, with the same or with all the batteries. So it's okay. So when I got the slots set. Hadn't really cleaned up anything yet, tested it, so everything was looking good here, and it works on the other side. It's a little bit wider than what I needed, just in case. I can't imagine getting another table saw, but then again, I was saying that earlier. This table saw, pretty much brand new, and I had to modify my my holders, those kind of wooden handles that ride on the rails. Not too long ago, I was up on a job. I was having to rip some furring stock, and my table saw just absolutely quit. It was a DeWalt 744 model. I've had it for years and years. Thing ran like a champ. Had problems last year, I remember, with the switch. Did some repair work on it, but no matter what I did to my 744, I just couldn't get it to work in the time that I needed, and so I just bit the bullet and went out and was looking. I wanted the DeWalt. I believe there's a 749 out on the market, and the 749 is essentially similar to the saw. The deck is a little bit bigger, but the cut, actually, you can take that and you can move that out, and you can get a 32-inch one side of the blade cut with that dual measurement system that they have. It's kind of a dual tape measure. That one was not in stock. They had a model set up, but they don't sell the models down at the big box stores. And it was kind of one of those things to where, gee, I really need it tomorrow. So I went to another store. They didn't have it either, but they had the 748, and the 748 has a 24-inch cut, small, little bit of a smaller deck, but only a 24-inch cut, which is really what that other DeWalt had. So I'm not missing anything. It's still a 10-inch saw. Still has, you know, the horsepower that I need. Has all the adjustments. Has a couple of upgrades. You know, over the years they've upgraded their saws. It's a lot. It's much lighter. You know, it's pretty much a hollow body, and the body's much smaller. It's almost really just like a crash frame with a couple of plastic sides, so you can mount things. So you know, I've been happy with the saw. I've been using it. New blade. Holy smoke! Couldn't believe how bad my blade was on the 744. Not really thinking about it. You know, you just get used to cutting slower. A new blade on this one, and wow, it's like butter. So I'm gonna attend to blades more often. Just one thing I don't think about. So anyway, so the new saw modified these things to work with the rails. I was able to actually then adjust my rails, and I moved them all the way as far as I could to this side of the saw, or this side of the bench, excuse me, whereas I used to be a lot farther that way, almost kind of center of the bench. But this then allows me to kind of uncompromise one of the things that I had worried about in an earlier video, and that's that with this, I now have much more room on this side before I hit the pipe, and I can put, you know, tools in here. I can put battery tools in here, other than like a circular saw or something that's kind of bulky. And the battery can sit here, and the tool can sit on the rail or whatever. You know, with the rails engaged, with the saw in place, or if the rails are just there. So I have a lot more room, at least on one side, and of course on the ends, depending on if the saw is there or not. You know, one end or two ends. So other than that, that allowed me, you know, a bit of a win. So new table saw, but and that's a win, even though, you know, $400 later, you know, you got to think about, you know, how much of a win is it. But new table saw. Prior to routing these things out, so I don't know what the width would have been on the other saw, and if I would have then had 3 slots or 4 slots or something like that, and it would have started to get busy and a little bit more compromising on the table surface. So it's nice that I've got this. Also, had not routed out. I told the last video I had, I said the next video will be when I do the router plate, which I haven't bought yet. I know Woodpecker has some aluminum router plates out there. I'm contemplating, do I do the DeWalt here, or do I buy another corded router like a Milwaukee or something? I've been watching a few Ron videos, and he's really been talking routers these days. And he uses like a 3 or 3.5 horsepower Milwaukee. He has a pair of them now, corded. I don't mind, you know, corded tools. It doesn't matter to me. Again, I'm just kind of a black and yellow guy, but I like the red and white. You know, red, white, and blue. So with that, maybe I'll get a Milwaukee and kind of set it up like his system. But fortunately, what he is doing these days, as he ever evolves in his, like many, a lot of people out there with their videos, they're really doing a lot of really cool woodworking things. And one of the things that Ron Paulk is doing is he has evolved and he is taking his workbenches and he is adding tops to them as far as just extensions. So he makes his 3x6 bench, which is what I was really kind of shooting for earlier. He makes his 3x6 bench into a 4x8 bench if he wants, with kind of basically clamped on dog holes or bench dog holes, toppers. And one of his toppers that he has created is a kind of a router table that sits on there, sits proud of the surface, sits on the surface, clamped to the surface. Router hangs off of it. And also I'm thinking maybe that I don't have to route a whole lot of my bench, that I can keep the surface as is, and now I can basically evolve with this bench and simply add on a top to it, which is just going to be a flat piece of stock of some sort of 18 millimeter 3/4 ply, where the router will hang off of it. And I'll still have a router table at that point, which I've never had. I'm excited for that. I'll make a router fence, never done that before, excited for that. And then really get more into routing than just the hand stuff and the jig stuff that I've been doing, but getting into even more routing. And then this bench is essentially done. If I don't have to route out a hole on the top of my bench for the router, I'm done. The bench is done. So I'm very happy for that. So really excited for things going forward. At some point, I really don't want to. I could make the I don't know what I think it's maybe a 4x3 3/4 piece of plywood he uses, and does his bench dog holes so they line up. And then, the router would hang off of that. So I'm not quite sure what the size would be, but while I could make that without the router, without the router plate all cut out, I could make that and get that ready to go, kind of like this, and then wait to get the router and the router plate at some future point. So, I could still do that, which is really what I was doing with this bench, just waiting for the right time where I could afford, unfortunately, $400 later, I now can't afford a router for a while. But with that being said, that's probably one of the next things that I would do then, is just make that extension. And then after the extension, just plan on getting the $100, $150, $200 aluminum woodpecker router plate, and then be able to make the jig for that, so I could route out that hole and have that double level so it'll set right in there and be supported from underneath. And then the router to go along with that, and maybe just go ahead and bite the bullet at some point on the Milwaukee 3.5 horsepower, because I think this one certainly doesn't have that kind of horsepower. This may be 1.5, 1 3/4 horsepower without reading the label, and it's doing fine for me. It's what little routing I've done so far, which I'm getting more and more into. It's working, and it's working well. Plus my smaller battery, my DeWalt battery powered DeWalt 600 series or whatever it is, really well. Again, mostly use it for roundovers and smaller things, but we're working well. But maybe evolve with that, get a kind of more of a Haas router, and just then it's done. Then you have it, and then you've got the horsepower if you need it, and if you don't, there's a speed guide that you can kind of gear it down a little bit. So anyway, really excited about it. Here's the update. So of course, I always just ramble and talk a lot longer than I anticipated. 4-minute video turns into a 14-minute video, which I'm approaching, I see. So anyway, that's the update. That's the bench. I'm going to assume then the bench is complete, other than I'll probably round these over here really quick, and then I'll clean up, put everything away in my magic tool bench, or my magic toolbox over there. Just really, again, happy with that. Very soon, if it's not already up by the time you see this video, and if you see this video, thank you. And, I'm not selling anything. I'm just putting it up there because I'm having a good time, having a really cool experience. And hopefully, if someone sees this video, maybe they get excited and they say, wow, this goofball can do something like this. I certainly can do what that goofball can do, and probably more and better. So you get out there and you do it, and you're, ha, 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 look at that. Let's check my thing out, goofball. Mine's way better, and I've got the... And I'll watch your video. So anyway, if not though, sometime soon, what I want to do is I want to give a tour. I had a couple of people, not online or anything, but say, hey, you know, Spence, I've seen other tours. Why don't you just put one up there for content and just add to the mix? Because, you know, there's some cool organization, which again, I've stolen all my ideas. I have very little originality in that thing, and I'm fully aware of that. But just ecstatic with that, ecstatic with this. Makes me way more efficient. Makes me give a better product to customers and give a better product to my wife when I'm making stuff for her. So really happy for that. Thank you very much for sticking with me. If you're here on video 2,760 with the with the compact bench, it probably could be shot in like 2 videos. But there you go. Thank you very much. Have a great one. I hope everyone is safe. We're still kind of at the end of a phase of COVID here, you know, as far as the end of the summer, and it's ramping up in other states, and it's down here in New York State, but it's starting to ramp up again, and it's not unexpected. So, but I hope everybody out there continuing, whether it's now in 2020 or if it's 2024 and this video magically is still up there, after we get all the chips implanted in our head, and you know, we're able to just think about YouTube and see the videos, you know, in the future. But if it's still out there in electronic land, wow, great. Hope you're safe. Hope everybody's safe, family's safe. Having a good time with it, right? Woodworking. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Ron. Thanks to all the people and the woodworkers who give me these great ideas. Just really, really happy. All right, you take care. Bye-bye.